run and look behind you and say, everybody wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life is chasing you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life is believing in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're going to have to do it all by yourself. Sometimes you just got to run and look behind you and say, everybody who wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life is chasing you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life is believing in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're going to have to do it all by yourself.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of English Live, which will look at Shakespeare's wonderful play, The Tempest. If you're not familiar with this play, don't worry, I'm going to explain what happens in the plot. We're going to look at a couple of quotes and see if we can decipher what they mean, and we're going to have a discussion on stage effects as well, and special effects, and see if we can come up with some ideas of our own for that as well. But first things first, so if you are new to English Live, or in case you've forgotten, you can download one of these documents from the English Live Resources Facebook page, and there are 6 different activities for you to do after the lesson. Now, if you don't usually do them, or sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, please do them today. There are some really fun ones that bring Shakespeare into your modern world. For example, creating Facebook profile pictures for some of the characters, casting your own movie of The Tempest, coming up with your own dance move, like the dab, for example, but different ones for different characters. So do have a look at doing that after the lesson. And in that Facebook group is the same place where you can post any photos or videos of your work for everybody else to see. So, a few hellos, only a few to start with today. So hello to Francesca in the Isle of Man. Hello, and a big shout out to Amy and Jess in Liverpool, who I've seen videos of you dancing to my music. And a big shout out to Tallulah and Rafferty in Northampton. To Stallbridge Primary School, hello to all of you that are watching today. And a big shout out to Samuel, who is 11 in Henstridge. Okay, more shout outs to come later. But we need to get on with our lesson. So the starter activity today, it's similar to the one I did last week when we did Romeo and Juliet. I'm going to read aloud a little tongue twister, and I'm going to ask you to tell me how many words start with S. So this is going to test your listening skills, so you need to listen in really carefully to this. Let's hope I get it right. She sells seashells on the seashore. I'll say it again. She sells seashells on the seashore. How many? 6. Okay, 6 words start with an S. I'm going to do it again. I want you to count how many words start with the SH sound. So shh. She sells seashells on the seashore. She sells seashells on the seashore. Did you get it? Okay, that time it was 3. So well done if you got that. And now I'm going to read you a summary of what happens in The Tempest. So hopefully now your ears are all ready for listening, because you need to pay careful attention to this. You've lost your way a little bit. You can come back to it after the lesson, and it's not going to impact what I do later in the lesson if you've got a bit jumbled up on who people are. It's not a problem, okay? This lesson is just for you to enjoy and to explore some of the ideas and techniques and things that are associated with Shakespeare's plays. So here we go. In the Mediterranean, a storm overcomes a ship that carries King Alonso and his son Ferdinand and other family and nobility from their homeland, Naples. So far we've got King Alonso, Ferdinand, and important men on the ship with them. From an island, Prospero and his 15-year-old daughter, Miranda, watch the storm and watch the ship wreck. Miranda fears for the ship's crew, but Prospero assures her that everything is fine. Prospero picks this moment to tell Miranda that many years ago, whilst he was the Duke of Milan, he had fallen out with his brother Antonio. With the help of his friend Gonzalo, Prospero escaped from Milan in a boat with baby Miranda and all of his books of magic. Prospero enjoys a little bit of the old magic. They travelled to this island together, the two of them, and they made it their home. And they Prospero enslaved the only native islander whose name is Caliban. The only other inhabitants of the island are the spirits, one of which is called Ariel, and Ariel's a very important spirit. Prospero rescues Ariel from imprisonment in a tree. Now, Ariel is trapped in this tree by a witch called Sycorax, who also happens to be Caliban's mother, but that's a side story. So we move on. So far, we've met Alonso, his son Ferdinand, the other important men on the ship, Prospero, Miranda, Caliban, and Ariel. Since Antonio was on the boat that is now shipwrecked, that's Prospero's brother, Prospero hopes finally to make it right with him. So he knows that he's shipwrecked on the island and he wants to make it right. As Miranda is asleep, Prospero discusses how he was involved in wrecking the ship onto the island with Ariel, and they plot what to do with the men now that they are on the island. Miranda doesn't know this. The important men from the ship are cast ashore unharmed, but King Alonso is near despair because he believes that his son Ferdinand has drowned. He's heartbroken. Ferdinand has actually arrived safely on a different part of the island, where he meets Miranda and they fall in love, love at first sight, similar to last week when we looked at Romeo and Juliet. Where are we? A bit more on this sheet. So Prospero worries about his daughter falling in love with this Ferdinand character, and he makes Ferdinand do loads of jobs for him to show his worth, like carry lots of wood. In the meantime, Ariel tries to be released from Prospero's control, but Prospero says, do one more job for me and I'll think about setting you free. So quite a complicated story so far, don't worry. So Ariel uses music to lead the shipwrecked men astray, while Sebastian and Antonio, so Antonio is Prospero's brother, plot to kill King Alonso while he's asleep. Very nice. Their attempt is foiled by Ariel, who prevents the murder of King Alonso. And all the people from the ship just become more confused and start wandering around the island, and it's all a little bit crazy. Anyway, Stefano and Caliban and let me go back a moment. In another part of the island, the shipwrecked jester Trinculo, so a jester is there to entertain the king. He is ashore and he discovers Caliban. This is a really funny moment in the play. Trinculo hides beside Caliban from an approaching storm, and the ship's butler, Stefano, finds them, and more hilarity ensues. So then Stefano, Caliban, and Trinculo, at Caliban's suggestion, intend to kill Prospero, because remember, Prospero treats Caliban like his slave. And they decide they want to make Stefano lord of the island. Ariel sees the whole thing whilst he is invisible on stage, but he's a spirit, he can do those kinds of things. And he reports this plot back to his master, Prospero. Meanwhile, Prospero has decided that he does quite like Ferdinand and he's going to let Ferdinand and Miranda get married, even though she's only 15, but we'll forget that. Okay. So Prospero and Ariel then set a trap for the three men that are plotting to overthrow Prospero. Stefano and Trinculo fall for the plot and they become distracted by some brightly coloured trousers that are hanging up. And after they touch the clothing, they're chased away by spirits that are dressed up as dogs, starting to get a little bit weird now. Ariel brings all the important shipwrecked men to where Prospero is, and Prospero renounces his magic and reveals himself to everybody that he lives on the island with Miranda. And instead of taking his revenge on them, he forgives them. Ferdinand and Miranda get engaged. At this point, the sailors come in to announce that the ship's been repaired and they can all board it once again and they can all go home. Prospero fulfills his promise and frees Ariel from his control. He gives Caliban and the drunken servants and the jester a good telling off. And the play ends as they all celebrate and enjoy a feast and a performance. So that is the weird and wonderful story of the Tempest. I hope that hasn't put you off too much. Okay, so let's move on. what are we going to do first? So we're going to look first at how you might think about staging something like this. So it's not like it's set in some nice gardens or inside a stately home. It's set at sea, on a ship that is wrecked on a shore of an island, a deserted island. There are caves, there are weird spirits and things going on. So you need to think, how would Shakespeare have put that on? How would he put that on stage? So I'm going to ask you to see if you can come up with your own ideas of how you might stage some of these things, okay? It's just to get you thinking a bit about stage design and stagecraft and special effects. So I'll bring this closer in just a moment. At the time, so I think 1611 is when this was first performed, they had fireworks, so they would use fireworks and they would use thunder sheets to try and recreate the sound of thunder. And if that wasn't enough, they would roll a cannonball along a log, a wooden flume type thing to create the rolling sound of thunder. They would have loose sheets tied up round a wheel, and they would turn that really fast to try and recreate the sound of rain. What else did they do? Oh yeah, of course. And Shakespeare put things in his stage directions like sailors enter wet. And that would indicate to the people in the audience that it had been raining because the characters are coming on stage completely drenched. Imagine having that job backstage, that you stand there with a bucket and you just have to tip it over the actors before they go on stage. So lots of great things that they did in Shakespeare's time, but obviously we have a bit more technology at our disposal and you might have some creative ideas of your own. So I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes. You can discuss this with whoever you're with at home. You can jot down some ideas. You can even draw something if you like, but just have a think how you might get these ideas across on stage. So we've got the sound of a thunderstorm, lightning, pouring rain, an invisible character on stage, because of course Ariel is invisible at one stage, but the audience know that he's there because he overhears a plot and goes back to tell Prospero. And also spirits disguised as dogs chase Trinculo and Stefano away. So how would you show that? Okay, get your thinking caps on, off you go. Play. Thanks for listening. That was a lot of talking from me then.
can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support.
Pause. Okay, so I haven't been able to see. Oh, let's surround them in. I was hoping to see some of your ideas in the chat, but my chat's gone a bit wibbly. But hopefully you've come up with some ideas of how you would create these effects on stage. What we're going to do now is look at a couple of quotes and just see if we can decipher what they might mean. We're going to start with these two quotes. Okay, one might be a bit easier than the other. So when I give you some time to come up with your own ideas, you can pick one or both or neither. Okay, so the first one is hell is empty and all the devils are here. And the second one is be not afeard, the isle is full of noises, sounds and sweet airs that delight and hurt not. So just see if you can try and work out what the quote might be telling us, and extra bonus points if you can work out who might have said these things, but I will tell you afterwards. Okay, I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to do this. Good luck. Play.
I do and say everybody who wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're not running. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life will chase you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life will believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know that you do it, you're going to have to do it all by yourself.
Oh, Mrs. Ali, I just saw some really good ideas from the previous activity from you. Lovely. Interesting idea, Libby. But you've got it the flip way round. Pause. Okay. Hopefully you've got some ideas about what these might mean, but first I've got some shout outs for you. So Mummy English with Holly has been carefully going through the chat and picking out some people for shout outs. So she says, or I say, hello to Etta. Hello and a shout out to Izzy, who is 13 and watching in Orlando. To Akanksha's daughter, Suhana. Hello to Kirsten, who is 10 in Lincolnshire. Big shout out to Lindsay's dad, who is working today. Hello to Daniel, who is 9, who would love a shout out. There you go, Daniel, you've got your shout out now. And shout out to Holly and Max in Seaford. Hi to Broughton Primary School. Hello to all of you. And Guy, who is 8 in Bristol, who is watching the first live lesson. Welcome, Guy. We always love having new people join us in our lessons. Hello to the whole of St Nicholas's School. Hello to all of you. Big shout out to Lara Jones and asked, did I see her work on the resources and did I like it? Well, I've seen lots of work on the resources group and it's all fabulous. And I need to find some time in the day to sit down and give you all a few comments and feedback, but the work is wonderful and I hope that you're all getting to see each other's work as well. Hello to Dash, who is 7 in India, to Akshaj, who is 7, who's done every lesson and would love a shout out. Well, well done for doing every lesson and there's your shout out. Hello to Lotta, who would like to give a shout out to her amazing dad, Bry, as he works so hard and she loves him very much. I can tell my mum picked that one. She's a softie. And a big shout out to Joe in Year 7 from Preston, who's been asking for shout outs, to Charlie's pet Pipkin Dobcool and Franlan. tongue twister there. And shout out to Grace, who is 11. So thank you to all of you who have been joining me today. So what do these quotes mean? Well, the first one is actually said by Ferdinand when he jumps off the ship as it's on fire and about to go down. But it's actually reported to Prospero by Ariel. So Ariel is telling Prospero about what happened at the time of the shipwreck. Now, there are lots of men that are on the ship that are involved in lots of political decisions, a lot of trickery, a lot of sneaky behaviours behind the scenes. And Ferdinand has just become aware of that. So what he is saying at this point is that hell is empty and all of the bad people from hell are actually on that boat with him. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he decides to jump off the boat and take a chance diving into the cold sea. Who knows? But that is what that quote means and where it falls within the play. So this second one, be not afeard, the isle is full of noises, sounds and sweet airs that delight and hurt not. Well, this is said by Caliban, so well done if you got that correct. And it shows a softer side to Caliban. So Caliban is quite frequently thought of as being quite beastly. If you watch the film version with Helen Mirren of The Tempest, Caliban is dirty and built like a beast, and he's got no hair and he's covered in dried mud and his face has got weird paintings on it. And we hear him say things like this in the play every now and then that do show us he's got a softer side and that we should care a little about him. After all, he has been enslaved by Prospero on an island where he was living freely before that. So specifically what he's saying is that you shouldn't be scared. The island is full of noises, and we know that there are lots of spirits. There are sweet airs, so he might be talking about the smell of fruits and flowers and things that are growing on the island. And these are all things that will delight you, but they won't hurt you. So it's a reassuring thing that Caliban is saying. Okay, so we're going to move on to another task. Right. Now, one of the main themes in The Tempest is power, and there are all different sorts of power. Some people in the play have more power than others, or different types of power. So what I would like you to do is to come up with a list of as many different types of power as you can. They don't need to be related to The Tempest. This is getting your brain thinking kind of activity. So I've got some to start you off. I've put brain power or intelligence, the power of beauty, and political power. You can come up with, I've done this activity in the classroom many times before, and I've seen learners come up with lists of 20, 30 different types of power. So see if you can beat that. I'll give you a minute and a half. You can discuss it. You can shout them out at the screen, jot them down, whatever works best for you. Okay, good luck. Play. Mrs. Ali, some great suggestions again. Well done, Adam. Oh, the power of love. I love it. That's a great one. Electrical power. Superhero power. English power. Yeah. Technology power. Yeah, technological power. Emotional power.
You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait.
Batman power. Great, okay.
Everybody wants to run, but I can't stop running because you're running.
Pause. Okay, you're coming up with some fantastic ideas here. I mean, the live chat is just brimming with fantastic ideas, brilliant examples of different types of power. So you can carry on coming up with those, jotting them down if you like. I'm just going to read out a few hellos. So hello to Joanne Young, to Sam Haslam, who is 10. Shout out to Matt and Ben in Guildford, and to Ryan, who has been watching every single lesson. Let's see, where are we? Hello to Charlotte in Peterborough. Shout out to Isabel in Essex, and to Summer and Ruby, who are also watching today. Thank you all for joining me. Hope you're enjoying the lesson. So now that you've got all of these ideas of different types of power, I'm going to ask you to try and rank in order these 6 characters with the most power and the least power. Okay. This is a great task to do. And if there's any parents watching along today, this is an activity you can do with characters in different texts as well, ranking them in order of different things. So just to clarify who we have on here, and I will bring it closer, we've got Prospero, who used to be the Duke of Milan, took his daughter Miranda to the island to escape from what was going on in Milan, and can do magic and has enslaved both Caliban and Ariel. Miranda is his daughter. She's the only female on the island. She falls in love with Ferdinand, and at the end of the play, she has persuaded her dad to let her marry him. Ariel is a spirit that was trapped in a tree by Caliban's mother, but was freed by Prospero, and then was indebted to Prospero and had to do all tasks for him to say thank you. Caliban is the beast that lives on the island. He speaks the native tongue, but also he can communicate with other people. He's very physically strong. King Alonso, who is on the ship, or was on the ship, and is the king. And Ferdinand, who is his son, who can see people for what they are. Okay, he understands that there's a lot of bad things happening. When we go back to that quote about him saying that all of the devils of hell were amongst us. And he falls in love with Miranda and is given her hand in marriage at the end. So those are the 6 characters that I would like you to try and rank. I'm going to give you just a minute because I've waffled a bit, so you've probably already got an idea in your head. There is no wrong answer, okay? It's what you think, how you consider power, their power, and how influential and important their power is over others' power. Off you go. Good luck. Play.
You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life will chase it. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life will believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're going to have to do it all by yourself.
NHS power I've just seen. Well done, Harrison. That's a thoughtful ranking there. Thanks, Liz. Well done, Safa. Some good ideas there. Pause. Okay, some lovely ideas coming through, but like I said, there's no right or wrong way of ranking their power. It's what you think and your opinions, and as long as you can back it up with a reason, then your answer is perfectly fine. So some of you, I know it's lots of you in fact, put Caliban very low down in terms of power. So I can understand why you might say that, because he's enslaved by Prospero and all these people invade his island and he is still at the bottom of that hierarchy, but he has the most physical power. So does that bump him up? Well, anyway, right, we have come to the end of the lesson, but I did hope to get 2 more quotes in, so I'm going to pop them here. And if you are watching on catch up and you want to look at some more quotes, you can just pause the screen now and have a little chat about those. Or if you're interested in Shakespearean quotes from any Shakespeare plays, you can look them up online. If you have trouble reading the original text because it's quite fancy, old-fashioned sounding language, then I absolutely recommend looking up Spark Notes, No Fear Shakespeare, and line for line it translates what Shakespeare is saying into modern English, and that's a really helpful way in to Shakespeare if you like the idea of the characters and the plots and all of the ideas and the themes but find it hard to read. So we are at the end of the lesson today. I want to thank you all for joining me. Shakespeare, I know, can be a tricky subject for some of you. I hope that I've shown you how interesting it is and how wonderful his stories are. And I hope this sparks a little light for you. So tomorrow we have, if I just move this across, tomorrow we have vivacious verbs, and that's for Key Stage 1 to 2, but absolutely anybody can come and join in on that lesson. And Friday we have the spellathon. Additionally, this afternoon at 3:30, I will be hosting a GCSE lesson looking at how to approach AQA Paper 1 question 4. We'll be looking at the evaluation question. So if you've got older brothers and sisters, or you've got friends who will be doing their GCSEs next year or the year after, then they are very welcome to join me. That's all from me today. Have a lovely afternoon. Do show me your work on the English Live Resources group, because as I said, today's tasks are fantastic. Thanks again. Have a lovely day. Bye.